This time, I would like to reconvene the meeting of the Suffolk Central Board of Education for September 3rd, 2019. Let the record reflect the time is 8:28 p.m. We're going to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would ask that after the pledge, please remain standing. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for Carol Harsh, who passed away last week. Thank you. Action item 1.09, minutes of the regular meeting of August 20th, 2019. Do I have a motion? Mr. Donnelly? Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Shapiro? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against? Any abstentions? Motion passes. I have a quick question for the district clerk. Did I do something wrong?
No.
Are we good?
I was just looking at it.
Oh, okay, just checking. Just checking.
I was listening to it.
Okay. You're giving me this look like I
Oh, no.
messed something up.
Not at all. Not yet.
All right, thank you. You'll let me know.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Oh, you know what? I apologize. We did skip 1.0. See, where were you? 1.06, public hearing on the code of conduct. This would be an opportunity for many members of the public to speak about the code of conduct that's on the agenda for tonight. So this would be that opportunity. Okay, seeing as there are no comments, we will move on with the agenda. 1.10, acting superintendent's comments.
I've got quite a few tonight. A very exciting day today, an even more exciting one tomorrow. This morning we had our staff orientation. We started district-wide at the high school and then broke up into our buildings. Our highlights from this morning included John Lancia singing the national anthem and the Suffolk Marching Band drum line, illustrating how hard work and teamwork can really make an impact. It was really exciting to see the kids and how excited they were to perform for the staff this morning. In addition, themes included finding the awesome in the ordinary and recognizing the amazing things that happen here in Suffolk Central every day. Both today and at the board facilities walkthrough last week, we saw the outcome of buildings and grounds hard work over the summer, which included a number of highlights at the high school, the Jumbotron and the generator, at Sloatsburg, the new transformer and the beautiful paintings, at Viola, classroom and library facelifts and renovations. At Cherry Lane, we saw the installation of the new security window and main office renovation. The exploration den is in at Connor and almost complete. The generator work at the middle school is almost complete. And at Montebello, we saw the sidewalk and the stairs to help with maneuvering around the grounds of the building and helping with drop off and pick up. District-wide, we also saw the installation of many of the new LED lights and the sensory hallways installed. New teacher orientation was also held last week, led by two administrative interns, E&L teachers, Evelise Sanchez and Kim Wojciechowski, who ran the orientation as part of their internship, and they did an outstanding job. We have an outstanding crop of new teachers, and with a great induction into the district by Mrs. Sanchez and Mrs. Wojciechowski. And one of those new teachers we're very excited about, we're excited about all of them, but in particular, we're excited about Ariel Sanzo, who will be a math and special ed teacher at the high school, who will also be the advisor for the robotics club.
Hey, thank you. Very exciting things, and it's great to have robotics coach in place with school starting tomorrow. 1.11, public participation. This is public participation on action items only. Every speaker will have 3 minutes. If you wish to approach the podium and address action items only. Okay, seeing as there are none, we will close this portion of the meeting and move to action items. Are there any items that need to be pulled by board members?
Okay. I'd like to pull 2.02. 2.08, 2.09, 2.12, 2.25.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a few things I want to pull. 2.01. 2.11 and 2.19.
The last one was 2.19.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I've got 2.01, 02, 08, 09, 11, 12, 15, and 19. Does anybody have anything else that need?
Wait a
Not
second, say that again.
2.15.
No.
It was 2.1.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said 2.25, I'm sorry.
Can you say those again one more time?
Sure. 2.01, 2.02, 2.08, 2.09, 2.11, 2.12, 2.19, and 2.25.
Okay.
Okay? So
Thank
then we will use a consent agenda for action items 2.03 through 2.07, 2.10, 2.13 through 2.18, and 2.20 through 2.24. Okay? Is there a motion for this consent agenda?
Move.
Okay, Mr. McKenzie? Second?
Second.
Mr. Cairns? All those in, any discussion? Well, any discussion? No. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, 2.01. Is there a motion?
Moved.
Well, I think I can make the motion first. Right. Okay. Mr. McKenzie, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cairns, discussion. Now, before you get into discussion, there is one edit that actually needs to be made. There is one individual whose probation end date is actually incorrect on the personnel report. So we're gonna make a quick resolution just to update it here tonight, and then a corrected version will be uploaded to Board Docs. So I need a motion to correct the probation end date for Dinesh Morales from August 31st, 2023 to September 2nd, 2023.
Move.
Mr. McKenzie, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Reamer? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Okay, now you can have discussion on 2.01.
I just have a comment regarding number 5 on the personnel report that I will reserve till we discuss 2.19.
I think we should do them together.
Well, if you want to discuss,
They're related.
I understand, but in terms of the personnel report, are we having a discussion on it or are we voting on it? Because we need to vote on the report.
You need to pull.
I mean, I guess we vote on it, right? I mean, yeah, we can vote on the report.
Okay, so we're going to vote on the report then. So 2.01, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Wait, we could have the
Do the
discussion as it
discussion.
relates to 2.19 now, can we not?
You can, but you still ultimately have to vote
Both,
on the report.
right, at the end, but we can have
Well,
a
I'd
discussion
like to
as it
vote on the
relates.
report, but I need to,
Discuss
I need to also remove something from the report so that I can vote on the rest of the report. And they're
Okay.
interrelated.
Well,
So then we could, that's what we're saying, we want to discuss that so that we can vote on it, or pull it and vote on that separately.
so then, is there a motion to remove something from the personnel report?
Okay, so we can pull item number 5 from the personnel report so that we can discuss that separately from the
And an
personnel
item
report.
from number 2.
Yes, and an item from number 2.
What item from number 2, from the 2.19?
No. On the personnel.
Item number 2 on the personnel
report.
Okay.
So you've got 5 on the
Right.
personnel report,
Right.
and then you have number 2. So you have
Oh, I see. Okay, gotcha. Okay. What? Okay.
So let's think about the best way to do this, because I'm not entirely sure. If I had known this was going to be the case, we probably could have amended the agenda to move 2.19 to the top and done that first.
Well, you can discuss it at the same time.
Well,
if that's
So there's a
easier.
motion on the floor right now for the personnel report. So that's where we are. If you want to discuss something relating to the personnel report, then let's discuss it. Otherwise, we're going to have to vote.
Well, you're going to have the same discussion twice, is what I'm alluding to. If you want to have the same discussion twice, we can do that. I'm asking to have 219
So have,
and those 2 items.
then I think just have the discussion. Have the discussion on item 5.
Okay, that's fine with me. So item number 5 is filling the spot of the Director of Instruction, Curriculum and Instruction. This particular item, I don't feel should be on the personnel report tonight or as a separate agenda item. I think that we haven't had this position at Suffern Central School District ever, and to add this without a public discussion prior to the date you're voting on it is improper. Just some background information. The past couple of weeks I've been monitoring social media, and the individual referring into this personnel report and item number 219 went to leadership training, although not in a leadership role. She was announced at the safety meeting that there would be a director of instruction on 9/3 before the board even voted on it. It was announced today at Suffern High School that there would be a new director of instruction today without the board ever having voted on it. And again, we've never had this position before, so there should be a public discussion, in my opinion, because we're allocating public funds to fill the position. You know, in the past, Mr. Kern, you've actually advocated for having a public discussion regarding administrative hires prior to the voting date. So, you know, you've done that before, and now this just gets thrown on the agenda without ever having a public discussion. You know, I just think that the whole thing was poorly planned. We had the new acting superintendent come in with no support system in the instruction department. When we had an acting superintendent who has 3 people serving under her, one of which was already covering some of her work while she was operating in a different role in that department. You know, there's several different ways this could be. There's a contract attached to this. This could have been done as an MOA. And going forward, this is going to be a job that is now on the books at Suffern Central School District that has never been here before. And I'm a little bit concerned about where we go moving forward. If, you know, how quickly this can be filled again. You know, it's a temporary position now, but that doesn't mean that that's what somebody could be hired there permanently later. And that's a source of concern for me. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Well, as a board, we would have the authority to either fill this position in the future or not fill this position in the future. We would also have the authority to abolish this position once this temporary term is over. I mean, that's what this is, so everybody's clear. This is a temporary appointment. It is not a permanent appointment. This is, again, if you read the contract, it's there. This is a temporary hire. So the difference for me, and since you brought up public discussions, is that we don't, at least in my opinion, don't need to have a public discussion prior to appointing this. This is just like any other position that will be put on as a recommendation by the superintendent. Whether or not we're creating a new position, yeah, if we are, then that's fine, and I'm okay with that, because like I said, there is no obligation on our part to fill it again, nor is there an obligation on our part to keep it as an active role. So this is, again, my opinion, vastly different than having a discussion on, say, creating a director of facilities role that is a permanent position here in Suffolk. So again, I mean, it's really up to everybody how they feel, but my opinion is to let this go.
I'm glad that in your opinion it's okay, but the reason that we have public discussions is so that folks in the audience can have an opinion also. That's the reason why we discuss things in public, to give transparency to the people and let them know why it is that we're doing the things that we're doing.
And there's no reason we can't do that right now.
Well, right, but now people are voting on it the same day that you're having the discussion.
We've known since late July that we were doing this.
No, that wasn't in public.
You've known,
You could even
we didn't have
you've
the
known
we didn't
since
have that.
July, you've known what the stipend was going to be, so this isn't really a surprise.
It's not new to me, again, it's not new to me, but it's new to the public. And people are going to be voting on this tonight, right? It was given to us on a chart
and said, we'll discuss this at a later date. And now the date comes, and the public, when I received that chart, maybe to my fault, assumed that it was going to go before the people, and people were gonna have an opportunity to digest it, and maybe give their feedback at the podium, instead of just speaking on action items. Does anybody have any questions? And then we have a discussion, and they can't say anything about it.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different when you're sitting at the table and you know what happens, and the folks out there don't know what happens. There's a big difference, and it's just, in my opinion, it's just this whole thing. You know, we're backfilling positions now when everything had sort of calmed down a little bit. Now we're backfilling positions. I just think that the whole thing was just very poorly planned out.
Well, sorry to feel that way, but again, you've known, and this entire board has known about the backfill for the last 6 weeks. So this isn't a surprise.
Not to me, it's not.
No, but there's
making
people
it sound
sound
out
as
there that
if-
it is a surprise to them, because they have no knowledge of this, because it was never discussed in a public forum before. That's all I'm
The
saying.
contract was a surprise. We had never seen the contract before. The contract was on the agenda, and as far as having a contract like that, I don't know why it just couldn't be a memorandum of understanding, and why we need to create a new position to fill that position. Even though you say to me, oh, it'll be abolished, who knows if it will be abolished? So I personally don't feel comfortable that you're expending taxpayer money and creating another position, another $140-something thousand position where you still have other positions. So I'm not comfortable with this.
Okay, so to be clear, we're not creating a $140,000 position.
You are.
That money is already, that individual already gets paid
There's
the vast
another job,
majority of
and
that?
there's another job that's still out there.
No.
There will
there's
not be a recommendation to backfill that position.
It's still there, and it's still there.
Okay,
Still there.
there's nobody filling it, nobody's being paid for it.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, not yet. Okay.
And I just for the record, my opposition is to the position itself. It does not have any reflection whatsoever of the person who is being proposed to fill the position. It is just to the position itself being voted on without having had a discussion in public to let folks know what's going on and why we're doing what we're doing before the day that it's being voted on, and after they've been given the opportunity to speak on it publicly, if they have an opposition to it, now that they hear this new information.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, any other comments? Okay, let them call vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against?
Nay.
Okay. Motion passes. 2.02.
I pulled that, I just needed to know about the 3 custodial workers. Was there a turnover, or?
We have to make a motion first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. 2.02, is there a motion?
Moved.
Mr. McKenzie, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Raymer?
I want to say it again. There are 3 new custodians. I didn't know if there was turnover or.
There was, when I came in, they said there were 5 openings, 5 vacancies in the custodial worker area. From, I believe, from retirements and representations.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against? Abstentions? Motion passes. 2.08.
I pulled that. I just
Is
didn't.
there,
Oh, sorry.
is there a motion?
It's a good thing I'm not the president.
Is there a I'm sorry. Mr. McKenzie, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Shapiro? Discussion?
Okay, I pulled this item because I wasn't sure what it was. I tried to go back and see why did the auditor cross the road, because they did last year. So I tried to go back to last year and see if it was there, and it's something brand new.
It is. He's a nationally renowned speaker, largely on the topic of middle schools. Mr. Fox and the team that attended the Essential Schools to Watch conference last fall heard him there and thought he was amazing and would really be beneficial to the SMS community. And so we were, he's booked out like a year and a half advance. So we were able to get him for our March conference day. So pray no snow. And we're really excited to be able to host him, and that will be funded out of Title II funds.
Okay. Anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against? Any abstentions? Motion passes. 2.09. Is there a motion?
Move.
Mr. Shapiro, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. McKenzie, discussion.
I would move to table that item. 2.11.
2.09.
I'm sorry, my fault. Treasurer.
I think.
2.09.
He's
Yeah,
fine.
I pulled
I
it.
just heard.
I just thought he had a comment on it. In order to get these reports and get more detail in these reports, again, I brought it up in last meeting that we get access to WinCat. There are things that are on this report that are not really detailed. Things are put together like teacher salaries, supplies, equipment, textbooks, summer school. It's all in one line instead of separating it out on this report. This is also the report for June. We should be getting July already. We need to get these reports more on a timely basis. So those are my two comments. I know that Ms. Iasoldi's not here tonight, but I would like to get more information.
Anybody have any other, any other comments? All right. And all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against? Any abstentions?
I'm abstaining.
Okay, Ms. Reamer. Motion passes. Action item 2.11. Is there a motion?
Moved.
Mr. McKenzie, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cairns, discussion?
I would request this item be tabled at this time.
Are you making a motion to table?
Yes, I am.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cairns? So this is to vote on tabling 2.11. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against?
Nay.
Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you. .12. Not sure who pulled that.
I did.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Moved.
Ms. Reamer? Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. McKenzie? Discussion?
I know that we had given a stipend for the budget process. Will this incorporate that stipend amount? Or
Ideally, we'll have an assistant superintendent of business by then, so I would say no, because if with an assistant superintendent of business, the budget would fall to that person.
okay.
Any other comment? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Any abstentions? Motion passes. 2.19. there a motion?
Move.
Mr. McKenzie. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cairns? Discussion?
I would just mirror the concerns that I had when we discussed the personnel report, that, this was put out publicly, that this job was filled before this board voted on it. We're filling a position that we've never publicly had a conversation on before today. And, this could have been addressed some time ago, but never was. And now we're the day before school doing this. That's it.
Any other comments? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against?
Nay.
Nay.
Any abstentions? Motion passes. 2.25, the Code of Conduct. Is there a motion?
Move.
Mr. Shapiro? Is there a second? We don't have a second?
Second.
Mr. McKenzie? Discussion?
I just had a question on page 21 of the Code of Conduct. Board of Education may adopt in whole or in part the decision of the superintendent, struck out. The scope of the board's review shall include appeals regarding the superintendent's findings of guilt upon the charge or charges and/or penalty determination. I don't understand the language difference. I don't know if it's something that came from our school board attorney. Where did this change?
That came from David Shaw.
Okay, thank you.
Was there a specific reason for the change?
He just said the language is better. The way that he did it, it spells it out, I think, more clearly. Instead of adopted whole or in part, it's specifically saying whether the findings of guilt and or the penalty determination. Explain what those two parts are.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. We will move on to 3.01, which is an information item to discuss the use of, or introduction of styrofoam trays into our schools.
Actually, the
No,
removal.
stop.
Sorry.
So, yes, during the year last year, we stopped purchasing styrofoam trays and started purchasing paper trays. All of our styrofoam, we used up the ones we had. All of the styrofoam trays are now gone. And so we are using paper trays in all of our buildings. It's not necessarily styrofoam trays, but I do have a little more information about the trays, which goes back to one of the presentations we got from the green team. So if you want me to continue on, I can.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we're using the paper trays, and the good thing about paper trays is that they disintegrate, that styrofoam trays don't. The problem with paper trays is they also don't do great with liquids. So they get wet quick. And don't really hold the liquid well. So we are having a little bit of a challenge with that. Also, if you remember, we had the green team come and talk about reusable trays. And so Mrs. Isolde met with the green team at the middle school and looked into the reusable trays. The challenges with that are, first you have to purchase a dishwasher. At some place like the middle school, you have to purchase a lot of dishwashers or run them continuously, which also means you need an employee doing that. The dishwashers also wash the dishes, but they don't dry the dishes the way our dishes do at home. So there's a challenge there in terms of space, personnel needed, water usage, and it's just not as efficient as one would think when you're talking about the volume. In the elementary schools, one of the challenges we have is we don't necessarily even have a space to put the dishwasher because the cafeterias are so much smaller. So it's not that that's off the table, it's just much more complicated than what I think all of us thought it would be. So a couple other things we've looked at. So Ms. Isolde has, as I said, met with the green team. There's been some brainstorming sessions, which included looking into recyclable styrofoam trays, that they sort of turn the styrofoam into bricks that can be used for other things such as lining a garden. We also looked into there's a company in Yonkers that recycles styrofoam trays, but they won't come to Suffolk to get the recyclable trays. So that's a logistics challenge we don't have a solution to. So for now, we have switched to paper trays, but we are still very interested in looking for a long-term viable solution. We just haven't found one yet that is environmentally friendly, efficient, affordable, and works in the space and with the personnel we have. But it's an ongoing research into it and open to suggestions and looking into it.
Thank you. Any questions?
That took 3 minutes. Sorry, we couldn't have done it at the last meeting, but anyway, I would really suggest that Ms. Isolde continue to work with the green team. One of the best opportunities here is the students brought the problem and the solution to the board. Okay, we haven't figured out exactly that solution, but continue to bring the students in, and I think eventually they'll come up with a great idea that we should be able to pass. Maybe they can figure out something in terms of the logistics, in terms of if you have to take the trays to, is it Mount Vernon or Yonkers? Yonkers. Okay, that doesn't seem out of the ordinary. We're hiring someone to do that, but I leave it in the hands of the students. They're your best customers.
Okay. Anybody have anything else they want to add? Okay, let's move on. Okay. Discussion items 4.01, Administrative Hiring Committee. I'll open the floor.
So I requested that, myself and other board members requested that this be a discussion item on the 8:20 agenda, but it was not allowed for whatever reason. I then, at the meeting, made a motion to have it added as a discussion item, and that motion failed for whatever reason. And so now it's on the agenda for today. We have had this hiring committee on there, and there's been several email exchanges between board members regarding this. And the reason why this absolutely had to be on as a discussion item today and could not be on as an action item was because we didn't clearly have delineated the scope of what the Administrative Hiring Committee does. I hold in my hand the agenda from September 28th, 2018, when the Administrative Hiring Committee met, and it clearly delineates in several bullet points, numbered the goals, the mission. There was reports from the Assistant Superintendent of HR. The committee discussed the HR office, everything that happened at this. So everything is very clearly delineated in the meeting minutes, and it was discussed prior. So I don't understand why, if this was all discussed and it was a committee of the whole, why this couldn't be on the agenda as an action item when all of the reasons that I was given for it not being on as an action item are very clearly in this document that I hold in my hand. And I'd just like to find out why
I
that.
think the reason is because you have different people on this board who have different opinions about what a hiring committee should be. And since the committee doesn't exist anymore, we have an opportunity to create a committee that the majority of people on this board are comfortable with, instead of using what was pushed through last year. So that's why we're having a discussion about it, so that everybody can voice their opinion and say what they believe should be part of a committee or not be part of the committee.
So we could create a whole new position, paying people $140,000 a year, and vote on that tonight, but we can't vote on a committee tonight and have the discussion here.
I
That's
think
what
we already discussed the position, so why don't we stick to the committee?
Well, I'm just saying, if we can create a position that we've never had in this district before and pay somebody $140,000, we can have that discussion and then vote. But we can't do it on an administrative hiring committee, which doesn't use the allocation of funds, and it's a committee of the whole. It's everybody sitting at this table. It's not any faction of the board where somebody can go in and have a conversation and bring that to the board. It's everybody sitting at this table that would be a part of it, that would be there to talk about it. So I just don't understand why this couldn't have been an action item. If we can create a position, why can't we have this committee?
I already explained why it's a discussion item, so if we want to discuss it, let's discuss it, and if we don't, let's move on.
Okay, so again, it should be on for action, but if that's the case, and we have to wait another 2 weeks for that to happen with all
If it happens.
hiring, with the hiring that also.
Well, listen, all I'm saying is,
So you can't put it.
what I'm saying is, the majority may feel that it's
Well,
not
then I
necessary.
guess, much like the other
So let's
position that
just
we
have-
just created, that this won't be discussed, that we could just not even bother having this discussion too.
Let's discuss it.
You just vote 4-3 and that's it, right? That's the way it works.
Well, that would be the majority, but
I'm just saying, it just.
Let's-
Why do you have a vote
Do you
for
want to-
something if it's not on the agenda? Like, I don't
we
understand why
walk
you keep
away from
saying
this
that we don't
discussion-
put this on the agenda because we don't have 4-3. We don't have a majority that wants it on the agenda. If board members ask for something to be on the agenda, it should be on the agenda. That's what the policy says. Any one board member can bring something to be on the agenda. It just seems that certain things don't get on the agenda while other things do. And we're talking about transparency, but we're not really, are we?
Mr. Shapiro?
Okay, I think that and I'm sure if I go back, I can probably find the same paper that you have in your hand, but let's put it on the agenda as an action item for next September 17th, right? Right, let's put it on there. If you can make copies of that, Angus. Sure. All right, and if you can get them to all of us so that we can look at it, let's do some homework over the next two weeks. Let's take a look at it. Let's take a look. If we feel that some changes should be made, if you're in favor of it, if you're not in favor of it, then you don't really have a homework assignment, but we should still take a look at it. And maybe there's some good things in there that we could use. I know we had some discussion about it, and let's make it an action item, all right?
And in fairness to Mr. Kern, you weren't at this meeting, so you may not have known, but Mr. Shapiro, Mr. Donnelly, you were both at the meeting. I was there. Oh, wait, no, you were there.
You was
Matt.
there.
I'm sorry, you were there, Matt. And, yeah, everybody was there, so I don't understand.
Well,
I understand why.
not today.
you copied it. But,
Again,
I mean,
the
I
whole
just.
purpose of having the conversation was so that people, yep, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, can we have a preliminary discussion now about, because I wasn't at this meeting, and
Mhm.
I wasn't in part of the
And that was-
administrative hiring committee, so I'd like to have a discussion, if we could, about
Sure.
what exactly the committee did, and how does that differ from what the board does in terms of voting on the superintendent's recommendation.
And that was really the whole point of having this as a discussion item, was to set parameters, to discuss what we want to see in a committee and what we don't.
Because, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think having as much information as we can in the hiring process, because we're voting on recommendations is very important. However, you know, when you go through all the training, we've all went through the training, the board training, they say we should not be managing the day-to-day operations. So for me, that kind of contradiction is something that I'm a little nervous about in terms of this committee. I see the committee as an observational information gathering committee, and if that's what it is, then I fully support that. I also see the committee as something that should be used for higher level of hires as well. So if I'm stating what was happening with the committee last year, you know, I certainly can be in favor of that. So that's really my feelings. I don't know if anyone has any other.
That's exactly the reason why we created it. The whole idea was simply to, the board, all members of the board have an opportunity to speak to the candidates who the superintendent has put forth, okay? We do not, you know, come in and say, this is the candidate, you know, you should really select or anything else. It's an opportunity before we vote on hiring them, but at least to meet them, okay, and speak to them and find out who they are and so forth. That's all. What you said, Chris, is exactly the reason why we wanted to do that. We're not basically hiring. The superintendent still has that authority and responsibility and power. Okay, that's all it is.
When we created this initially, there was quite a bit of resistance, not just from members on the board, but the superintendent at the time, members of the unions were very concerned about how far down the chain this was going to go. And it was only used for the purposes of hiring people in the central office. That was the only way it was used. People were, and quite, that's how we ended up partially with Mr. Mazzone. We had discussions about the finalists that were down, that were brought forth by the superintendent at the time. So it has nothing to do with us meddling with the superintendent's will and who they want to work with. That's entirely lies with the superintendent. At the end of the day, we can vote no if we don't like the person that they bring forth.
As a devil's advocate, though, how is that different than what's happening now? Like, I don't know, like, how the process is now, but how is that different than the superintendent and staff will interview people, make 2 or 3 recommendations to us, and then the board gets to interview those people? Is that, I might be wrong, I might be misstating what actually happens, but what is the difference between the hiring committee and what is happening now?
There was only, well, in terms of basically just what happened tonight, what we just voted on. One person was brought forth in the past, and you either voted on
So it was always one person choice, yes or no. You didn't get 2 or 3 people to look at as the process was going
Right,
forward.
and quite honestly, it's not even fair to the person that you're bringing forth, especially if it's rushed, because if people are up here voting no, it's an embarrassment to that person. You know, if they're just skating by with a 4-3 vote, or, you know, they don't get appointed for that matter, which did happen last year, it could be an embarrassment to that person. So if you're properly vetting these people, the people that are
in the process.
Yeah, and you're involved in the process, you can understand the people that instead of just it coming before you, you understand who the person is when you're voting for them, and it gives you the opportunity to not just see a name on a piece of paper, but put the name to the face and say, yeah, I like that person, or I didn't like that person, and I'm voting no, or voting yes, whatever you choose. You have a back and forth with them.
It was a great discussion, and I think all the board members who were in that really agreed, said, wow, that candidate is really the best one. And we all had a great feeling of, we had a discussion, okay? And that's part of that whole concept of communication that we want to try to get here, okay? We're not taking any power, usurping any power from the superintendent, or going down and trying to select teachers or whatever the case may be. That's not the reason, okay? And it really worked out. What do you think, Larry?
But the point is that us meeting Larry and another candidate had a 0 bearing on the recommendation from the superintendent to hire them.
But it
So
also
whether or
better.
not we had met him, would have made no difference. He still would have been sitting there.
You can't say that. Maybe it
Why?
didn't, maybe it didn't for you, but it may have for other people that voted for him. You understand what I mean? Maybe it didn't make a difference, maybe you would have voted for him anyway. That's possible. But maybe I wouldn't have, maybe Melissa wouldn't have, who knows? Maybe we would have, felt uncomfortable had we not met him. Like, who is this guy? I don't know.
And we
I'm
all-
glad I met him because he's been doing a great job.
We all
as a
agree.
comedian.
Okay.
And even the superintendent that brought it forward and adamantly opposed it said, now that I see what's going on, I'm not against this, I think that it's fine. So I
Open
don't,
discussion by all the board members. That's the concept that we're trying to put in.
The other important piece to this is that when you have an administrative committee, hiring committee, it's not done during executive session. So it wouldn't be that the public is waiting for us to finish up, to come back down to do our regular scheduled meeting. It's something that can be called on a different day, and you start the meeting, you go into executive, but it's not like the public is sitting here waiting for us to come out.
And I'd like to know, if we go forward with this committee, what level does it stop? Are we only talking about administration? Are we talking about
I think
director level and above? Or are we leaving that open for us to say we want to meet an assistant principal or candidates for that position? Because to me, we're getting, again, and this is how I feel about this committee to begin with, is we're getting too deep in the weeds. And if we're going to even consider having this committee, I think it needs to have parameters and guidelines.
Well, I think that's the whole idea of, if Angus can get us the copies of all of that, then once again, I could go back and find my own.
I'll scan
Right,
it.
but I'd like to know what everybody's opinion is on that.
Okay, well,
I'm for director, assistant superintendent level and above. I don't think lower than that.
Absolutely.
That's my opinion.
I agree. That's what it was
This
created
one,
for.
in the administrative
previous one,
committee, it was support the administration in completing search process for the district leadership positions, leading to a successful recommendation by the superintendent, but it was leadership positions.
Yeah, so that's not specific.
that's very broad. Principal's a leader, assistant principal's a leader.
That could be amended. I mean, if that's what this board decides, this is what the previous board decided. If that's what this board decides, then so be it, but
Absolutely.
you
not.
can,
Well, that's
you
my
can,
fear, is if it goes
Yeah,
down
no.
to teachers and
No.
all that.
I don't think that was ever the intention.
No, I'm not saying it was, I'm just saying that was why I want to clarify all this before we came.
So if this goes as an action item for the next meeting, it'll be clearly defined as a committee that will only be involved with directors and above. Nothing at the building level.
Okay. That's what this board decided.
And if I may, Matt, at this time? Okay, I think we have enough checks and balances within the system here. The panel that is set up by the superintendent, acting superintendent, the interview process that the candidates meet at first, and who they pass on for the superintendent, acting superintendent, the administrative, Mr. Matone. I think we have enough input by the time we get a recommendation that we don't need a hiring committee. That's just my opinion. It was in the original, and I'm not supporting an additional.
I echo Mr. Donnelly. I feel the same way, but the majority of the board here would like to move forward, and that's what we will do. and it'll be on as an action item with the set parameters for the next meeting. Any other conversation about this before we close the discussion? No? Okay. Then let's move on. Board member comments? Board member comments?
I would just like to thank the facilities department, John Palma, for the tour that they gave us for the facilities on Thursday. Very good to see the work they do and how they presented the work. And I just wanted to publicly thank them for all their efforts.
Thank you.
I'd just like to wish the faculty, if I could, I'm sorry, if I could, just thank you for everything you do. I wish you all a great year. I know you're gonna get the lifeboats out there and get everybody to the shore. Thank you very much. You guys are great. Our secretaries, our custodians, everybody, the staff. I wish you just a great super year. Coach, 8-0, 9-0.
Are there any teachers in the audience? I knew the answer. As a former teacher, tonight, okay, a lot of teachers here will be rolling over in their beds and thinking and trying to figure out how should I start tomorrow. If you ever saw the film To Serve with Love and so forth, you understand that every year is a new year, and you fall in love with your students in a nice way. But the point is that you basically in June, okay, have left them at that point, and they've left you, and now it's a chance to start all over again. So, congratulations to all the teachers. I hope they can take some no-nos or something tomorrow and have a great year. And the students also will enjoy their teachers. I'm happy that the assignments have been corrected and so forth for everyone, and to make everyone happy on that. But also for the parents when you send them off, okay, that you know that there's bus safety, there's school safety, and your child is going to be learning in an academic setting, and they're going to be safe and sound in the classroom and also on the playing fields. So hopefully it's a great year. Oh, one last thing. I'm so happy that there is finally a coach for the robotics team in the school system now in terms of the high school, but I hope that the administration will continually look to have a teacher, maybe a new teacher who is not tenured yet and is looking to make some points to become a robotics teacher in the Suffern Middle School, and make that program in the elementary and have it feed into the Suffern Middle School, old school, and then go to the high school. You have a fantastic robotics program at the level up here in the high school, but you really have to have those feeder programs going into it. And we know, okay, that this past year, as you know, the students, the females in particular, were involved in the program. They're going into engineering, computer skills, coding, and everything else. It's a fantastic program that can really be for not only the students who are on the higher level of going into the engineering, but also for other students who get involved and have a program that they can really participate in and learn from in a very, very nice way. So hopefully we'll work with the teacher union. I think there's someone in the audience on that who might maybe suggest a faculty member for the Suffern Middle School and get that program going. It's a good program, and you saw last year how well they did, and I think that's one of the best things that the district is moving forward into the 21st century with programs like that. Now, there's another program about chess. I don't know if you know.
Okay, you get 3 minutes. You're over time. You're going to hold that until the next meeting.
Yeah, I'll save that with the next 2 weeks from now. I just wanted to echo what Dr. Nick Palm was saying about the facilities that we went through this past week. I wanted to commend the custodians and the maintenance crew. Everything looked fabulous, shiny, and clean. I'm sure the kids will destroy it by tomorrow afternoon, but everything looked wonderful. They really did a great job, and I just wanted to commend Mr. Palmer himself on the project of restoring or putting in new transformers at the Sloatsburg School. We allocated almost, I think it was $400,000 to put the transformer in. He was able to put it in for $95,000 and save the district over $300,000. And that's the reason why he was put in that position, so that rather than actually installing the transformer and wiring things and everything else, that he could put his mind to his job, and he really did a fantastic job and saved the district a lot of money. So I want to say thank you to him and a job well done.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I do. If you want me to go first, age before beauty, is that what you're saying? No, age before beauty. I wish all the parents a safe and a productive year for all of your children, and a year of very few headaches. To the staff, a wonderful year, both teachers, secretaries, custodians, administrators. Let 2019 to 2020 be a terrific year. There's so much that this district has to offer, and I hope that all of us can take advantage of it, and that the students come out great, and the parents are happy, and the staff is happy, and someone wins the lottery, so we can be happy. I'm done.
I just had a couple of points to make tonight. I agree with Paul. Students and teachers and parents, I wish you the best here. A lot of success. And I just wanted to say that after hearing from my constituents, I requested a special meeting to address the scheduling issue. Unfortunately, a quorum was not established. Since the meeting could not take place, I asked that the parents and the students received an updated schedule as soon as possible. And I want to thank Lee Weber for following my request and getting those schedules out to the parents and the students by email. My second point tonight is the general fund of the school district is the main place that money comes in and out of the school district. If you look at the balance sheet of the Suffern Central School District, you will see the fund balance, which includes a number of lines. Most are labeled as reserves. The district has over $30 million of reserve balances. This shows that the school district has over-collected tax money from the citizens of Suffern Central School District. What does over-collection mean? It's an English term. It means excessive collection, as in taxes. This $30 million belongs to the taxpayers. I will fight to have a 0% tax increase for 2020-2021. Our money belongs in our wallets and not in the school district's reserves. We can have a 0% tax increase without cutting programs, without layoffs, without making any difference to our district. Remember, 0%.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to say it's getting late. We want to get everybody out of here and get home and get your kids ready. But I do have to, just like a few other people up here, just thanks to facilities, because going through the buildings with John and everybody else was really fantastic. I mean, the amount of work that was done at all of our buildings, I mean, we were able to see 5 out of 7. It really is phenomenal. The sidewalks, the transformers, I mean, everything they did really. So just, you know, my hat's off to John Palmer and his team. And with that, we'll move to public participation. This is public participation for any district-related matters. Please step to the podium if you have something to say. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. This will be a 30-minute total period for comment. Please refrain from mentioning any students or employees.
My name is Ted Aaron. I live in Chestnut Ridge, and I'm here to talk about the K-Solar program. I understand that idea was brought to this group, in which you put the state with sponsors the program and put solar panels on the roof of the buildings. And I was going to go through a whole spiel about the benefits, et cetera, et cetera. But I understand you're quite knowledgeable, you all are quite knowledgeable about the program. My question is, what is the status of the program? There is an application to put in, about 20 or 30 school districts have done that type of thing. I wonder, have you put in the application?
That was the question that I had asked to put on the agenda, but it wasn't put on the agenda. Sorry.
When will we put on the agenda? It's a win-win situation. You have a situation, you save money. I have a list of, Tompkins Cove Library, Tom Rivers School District, Haverstraw, Somers Middle School, Tarrytown, Rutgers University. They all have solar panel program, and they all save money. Right across the river, you got Somers Middle School. $27,000 a year is estimated that they're saving. What's the holdup? It's a win-win situation, my goodness gracious. By the way, I gave Mr. Palmer the information about 6 months ago. I left the information that I've been away on vacation, went to other schools, went to Clarkstown, went to Pearl River, et cetera, et cetera. Question is, where are you? I hope you will fill out the application. By the way, I have a copy of the application. If you want to, you can do it right now. Thank you.
If you could leave the copy, that would be great.
Here's here.
I will just say briefly that as has been communicated to the board already, there will be a solar panel presentation at the next meeting on September 17th.
Thank you.
And also the middle schools. Thank you. I hope that the next time I come, things will be better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Abby Johnson, and I'm not the student liaison, but I am a senior at Suffern High School, and I've been in this district since kindergarten. And given some comments made at some recent board meetings, I feel compelled to speak about my experience here over the past 12 years. Contrary to some comments recently made, I've never felt unsafe at any Suffern Central setting. I've had numerous teachers who have supported me, nourished me, and fostered a positive learning environment. At no point in time have I ever felt unsafe or threatened at any building. Though I cannot speak for all students, and I cannot speculate on all teachers, I can say with confidence that I've had several amazing teachers, and I've had an overall positive experience throughout my elementary school, middle school, and high school. I am saddened to hear that some others have had some negative experiences, but surprised and dismayed that they have turned these into such harsh and personal attacks. I have always known Suffern to be a tight-knit and positive community, and it frustrates me to see people attempting to portray the entire district in a negative light. Given my 12 years of first-hand experience, I thought everyone should know that Suffern is still a great place to go to school. I hope to hear more positive experiences going forward, and I hope that we can resolve our issues about divisive attacks. Thank you.
My name is Melissa Hescher-Lardy. I have 2 children in the district. I just wanted to briefly address the executive hiring committee. and I know you're going to discuss this at a future date. I'm really hopeful that you keep it intact in whatever degree. I think that it would be really helpful. We've had so many leadership positions sit empty for years. Maybe the executive committee can actually help find some people that could fill some of these slots. Like we found here, and welcome, and thank you very much.
Anybody else? No? All right. Seeing as we have no more speakers, we will close this portion of the meeting. Acting Superintendent's closing comments.
I just, as many of the board members did, want to wish all of our students, staff, and families a terrific school year.
Thank you. Okay, then at this time, we will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I want to stay here longer.
Are you sure? You can vote it down. You can vote no. Is there a motion? Ms. Reamer, is there a second? Dr. Nickfond? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against?